I'm Jimmy, and I need to walk you through something that is happening right now, not in 6 months, not next year, right now, in April 2026, to every motorcycle dealership in America. Because what is coming this summer is going to be the worst riding season for dealers since 2009. And if you understand exactly why that is happening and exactly when it hits peak pressure, you are going to be in the strongest negotiating position any motorcycle buyer has been in for 15 years. Let me show you the collision that is about to happen. Before the first shot was fired at Iran on February 28th, the American motorcycle market was already in serious trouble. US motorcycle sales fell 5.3% in 2025. That follows a decline the year before that. Through the first half of 2025 alone, the industry sold approximately 271,000 new motorcycles, its weakest start in years. Foot traffic at dealerships was down nearly 40% compared to the previous year. Online inquiries had halved, and dealers were carrying 12 to 18 months of inventory. The healthy number is 3 to 6 months. They had 2 to 4 times as much inventory as they should have on showroom floors that were not moving. Approximately 80,000 Harley-Davidson motorcycles alone were sitting unsold across America as of early 2026 in showrooms, backlots, overflow storage, regional warehouses. The Harley-Davidson Dealer Alliance sent a letter to corporate in late 2025 asking them to stop shipping new bikes because, and I want to quote this exactly, "we cannot sell what we have." Bikes that were selling for over $12,000 2 years ago were struggling to fetch $7,500. Dealers were already bleeding before the Iran crisis began. Here is the financial mechanism that makes this dangerous for dealers specifically. Every bike on a dealer's floor is financed through what is called floor plan financing, short-term loans from lenders that fund the dealer's inventory. The dealer pays interest on every unsold unit every single day it sits on the floor. At the current rates of 8 to 10% interest, a dealer holding an $18,000 motorcycle for a full year generates approximately $1,500 in interest on that one bike alone. A dealer with 300 bikes on the floor is paying roughly $450,000 per year just in financing costs, before rent, before payroll, before a single wrench is turned in the service bay. That was the situation on February 27th. Then February 28th happened. The US and Israel launched strikes on Iran on February 28th, 2026. Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz to most traffic within days. The strait carries approximately 20% of the world's oil supply. There is no alternative route at remotely comparable scale. Brent crude surged past $120 per barrel within weeks. The national average gas price, which was $2.98 on February 26, crossed $4 per gallon for the first time since 2022. By April 2nd, gas stations near the Marathon refinery in Los Angeles were displaying prices over $6 per gallon. California's average hit $5.87. Americans spent nearly $8 billion more on gasoline in the first month of the crisis than they had the month before. Gas Buddy's head of petroleum analysis, Patrick DeHaan, called the $4 national average a psychological wall. And he is right, because at $4 per gallon gas, something specific happens to discretionary spending. Consumers do not stop buying things immediately, but they start making different calculations about what is worth spending money on. A motorcycle, for most American riders, is a discretionary purchase. It is something you buy when you feel good about your financial situation. When you are watching $80 disappear into your gas tank every week, instead of $50, when your grocery bill is climbing because diesel prices are up 50%, and that cost is flowing through every product that moves on a truck. When your consumer confidence is eroding, you do not walk into a motorcycle showroom. And the Iran crisis is not a one-week event. The Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed. Wall Street analysts are openly discussing the possibility of $200 oil if the disruption extends into summer. The EIA's own projections show gas prices staying elevated through the second quarter of 2026 at minimum. This is not a weather event that passes. This is a structural shock arriving on top of a market that was already drowning. Here's the detail that transforms this from a general market story into a specific crisis for dealers and a specific opportunity for you. Consumer spending impacts from sustained high gas prices do not hit immediately. The data on this is consistent and documented. When prices spike, consumers draw down savings and absorb the cost for a period, typically 4 to 6 months, before significantly altering their discretionary spending behavior. The Iran crisis began February 28th. 4 to 6 months from February 28th is June to August. June to August is riding season. It is the single most important sales period of the motorcycle dealer's year. The moment when floor traffic is supposed to surge, when the inventory that has been sitting since fall is supposed to move, when dealers recover the carrying costs from the winter months. Instead, this summer, dealers are going to face a consumer base that has been absorbing $4 plus gas prices for 4 to 6 months, whose discretionary budgets are compression, whose confidence has eroded, and who are not walking through the door. The dealers who survive this are going to be the ones who can move inventory fast, at any margin, to generate cash flow to service their floor plan. That means discounts. That means negotiating room. That means deals that would have been impossible 18 months ago are suddenly available to any rider who walks in informed. The 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible has the complete negotiation playbook, the exact word-for-word scripts, the specific numbers to anchor to, the Foursquare worksheet defense, the financing markup trap, and the add-on killer. Everything you need to walk into a desperate dealership this summer and walk out with the right deal. Link is in the description. Because the environment I'm describing right now is the environment where that playbook pays for itself on a single purchase. Let me be specific about what the data says you should do and when. The optimal buying window for this environment is late July through September. Here is why that specific window matters. By late July, dealers will have been sitting on floor plan interest for months longer than they budgeted. Summer sales, which they were counting on to recover their carrying costs, will have disappointed. The pressure to generate cash flow before fall will be at its peak. A dealer who has been paying $1,500 per month in interest on a bike that is not selling will take $2,000 off the price just to end that monthly bleeding. The inventory is also going to be the most bloated it has ever been in terms of age. Dealers receive 2026 model year bikes through late 2025 and early 2026. By August, those bikes are approaching 1 year on the floor. At that point, the depreciation clock is running against the dealer, not just the carrying cost clock. A 2026 model sitting in October is already competing with the 2027 models arriving at better funded dealers. On pricing specifically, bikes that sold for $12,000 to $15,000 new in 2024 are now struggling to find buyers at $7,500 used. In that environment, the spread between new and used narrows in ways that create genuine bargains on new inventory if you walk in at the right moment with the right information and the right scripts. The 8 things your dealer will never tell you, including the specific moment in the deal when financing markup gets inserted, the exact language that kills add-ons before they start, and the walkaway script that dealers in 2026 cannot afford to call, is all in the Bible. That is the second time I have mentioned it in this video. It will not be the last. If you are on the other side of this market, if you are thinking about trading in or selling a used bike, the news is less good and you need to hear it clearly. Used motorcycle prices have already fallen significantly. Bikes that sold private party for over $12,000 2 years ago are struggling to get $7,500. And that trend is not reversing this summer. It is accelerating. Dealers under floor plan pressure are not in a position to offer strong trade-in values. They already have too much inventory. Taking your used bike at a fair price means adding more floor plan debt to a balance sheet that is already strained. If you are going to sell private party. And sell before August. The fall drop-off in motorcycle buyer demand compounds the already depressed values, and the riders who wait until September to list discover a market with even fewer buyers than summer produced. The Bible's resale section covers the specific platform strategy, Facebook Marketplace versus Cycle Trader versus auction, the exact spring versus fall price differential data, and the presentation steps that add $500 to $2,000 to your private party sale price versus what you would get walking it into a dealer. That information is worth having before you make a decision that costs you thousands in the wrong direction. Here is the summary of what is happening and why it matters. Going into 2026, American motorcycle dealers were already carrying 12 to 18 months of inventory against a healthy benchmark of 3 to 6. Sales were down 5.3% in 2025. 120 dealers had already closed in the first half of 2025 alone. Floor plan financing was already eating into margins at 8 to 10% interest on bikes that were not moving. Then the Iran crisis added a structural oil shock on top of that. Gas crossed $4 nationally, discretionary consumer spending began compressing, and the consumer impact of sustained high prices arrives at peak force in 4 to 6 months, which is June, July, August, the riding season. The dealer's one recovery window is gone. I personally think what is coming this summer is the most significant buyer's market in American motorcycles since 2009, but only for riders who understand what is happening and walk in with the right information. The 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible is the most complete document I have ever put together on how to navigate a dealership, not in a normal market, but in exactly this market right now, in 2026. The negotiation scripts, the floor plan, pressure timeline, the specific window, the pricing anchors, all of it. The link is in the description. That is the third and final time I will mention it. Everything else I said in this video is free. The Playbook costs $97. In a summer where the wrong negotiation costs you $3,000 and the right one saves you the same, the math is not complicated. The Ranger is still running. Use this information. Stay safe. Ride smart.